Welcome to the Literati scene with Smokey Bacon and Dick Concannon, and co-hosts Suzanne McDonald and Joanna DiTillo. So stay tuned.
Our guest today is author, lawyer, psychic, Mark Anthony, and he has written his latest book, Never Letting Go. Mark, you are dealing with a subject that many have thought about, and we listen to people who have had short breaks of death, and
Yes.
And as a psychic, you're even closer to it. Tell us what motivated you to write this book.
Never Letting Go was or came about because of the grief that everybody experiences, and there's a copy of my book. And what happened was, being born a psychic medium and inheriting this ability from both of my parents' sides of the families, I found that my recovery from grief from the death of a loved one was much more rapid than a lot of people that I knew. And it's because I understand that the afterlife exists, that God exists, and that we are immortal living beings temporarily housed in a physical casing. So that's one of the main points of Never Letting Go, is to help people understand that so that they can cope with the loss of a loved one.
You use the words clairvoyance.
Yes.
And clairaudience, a new word for me, and you had a further word,
Clairsentience.
Yeah. Tell us about those words. They're new to me.
The sixth sense, we all know that we have 5 physical senses of sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. But everybody has a sixth sense. And the sixth sense has different aspects to it. Clairvoyance is seeing images, clairaudience is hearing messages, and clairsentience is feeling physical sensations. Let's put it like this. Dick, have you ever had a gut feeling about something with no logical reason why you felt the way, and you were right? That's clairsentience. You're feeling it. Women know it as women's intuition, and I talk about this in Never Letting Go. And see, so when we take the term psychic out of it, or sixth sense, and for men, let's call it instinct, because instinct is more manly. Okay, John Wayne, Harrison Ford, they have instinct. Women have women's intuition and feelings, and what's happening is we are picking up on a vibration. We're picking up on information which is sent to us in energetic format, which is a vibration. That vibration comes into our solar plexus, which is one of the great receptor areas in our body, the second most complicated bundle of nerves outside of the cerebral cortex, and therefore we interpret it in the form of emotional feelings. Whereas with clairaudience and clairvoyance, we receive that in the center of our forehead, which is where the pineal gland is, about 4 inches behind the forehead. For the people that do yoga, that's the third eye chakra. And what happens there is that vibration comes in and then is interpreted in the form of visual images or auditory messages.
Well, speaking of the physical elements of this, you mentioned in there you believe that one day, with the DNA sciences and so forth, we're going to find the gene that is the psychic gene. Do you have any scientific background for that?
Absolutely. A lot of people ask, is this a genetically inherited trait? Certainly in my family it is. Both of my parents were psychic mediums, and it runs for generations. In my father's family back to about 1900, my mother's family, we've tracked it to around 1890. But think about all the other genetic, why do we look like our parents? That's genes. Why do certain diseases run in certain families? Why do certain abilities run in other families? So there's a lot of behavioral and physical characteristics which are genetically passed from one generation to the next. And so why wouldn't this ability be the same? So there's a lot to it. Plus, there's nothing new about the science behind metaphysical contact with the other side. I refer to it as interdimensional communication. In fact, Thomas Edison, perhaps one of the greatest inventors since Leonardo da Vinci, was working on the so-called spirit phone. And in the 1921 edition of the Scientific American, he theorized that a device could be created which was sensitive enough to tune into discarnate intelligence, in other words, the other side.
Well, that's, I guess that's the guts of your book, and maybe we should talk about that. Do you get this basically from pragmatic experiences, or do you have another source?
Well, what makes me different from other mediums is that I'm also an attorney. And because I'm an attorney, I realize the importance of evidence. So, because I can't make a case in court without evidence, nor can I make a case for a client without producing evidence which is conveyed to me by a spirit from the other side. So I take a left-brained approach to a very right-brained activity. As a critical thinker, I apply that same critical analysis to my readings with people. So.
Well, tell me, what advice do you give to the immediate grieving?
Nothing can change the fact that someone we love died. And it's the most horrible feeling of all, because suddenly somebody that meant the entire world to you has passed. And you have to give yourself time. Don't put unrealistic expectations on yourself. Many people immediately want to have a reading with a psychic medium right after a loved one died. And the conventional wisdom is give it 3 to 6 months. The reason being, you have to recover from the shock and the trauma of the passing. You have to go through those waves of grief, the initial anger, the depression, until some stability forms in your life, because then you'll get the maximum benefit out of the reading. Spirits can communicate right away, but are we ready to hear the communication right away?
Well, before we go, tell me, is there any preparations we could make in anticipation of this grief?
I don't know if anything can prepare you for grief. There's nothing you can do about the fact someone you love has died or is going to die. But what you can do is learn to change your perspective on death. And that's part of what my book, Never Letting Go, helps people do, is to gain a greater understanding that what we call life is just a minute, infinitesimal fraction of what our existence really is, and that who and what we are lives on beyond the physical world.
Well, let me say this is an extremely thought-provoking book. Tell me, I'm sure there are people who might be interested in furthering this. Do you have a website?
I certainly do, and to make it easy, my website is the same as the name of my book. It's neverlettinggo.com, and on neverlettinggo.com you can follow me on Facebook, on Twitter. There's also a grief management section for helping you get through grief. Also, if people are interested in a private session with me, I can conduct readings over the telephone, by Skype. My clientele's worldwide. And Never Letting Go has been a major bestseller for the last year, and it's on sale not only in North America, in the United States and Canada, but in the UK, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, India, and I understand now Singapore.
Well, great. I want to thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Dick. It's an honor.
Thank you for joining us tonight. This has been the Smoky Bacon and Dick Concannon Show.